Good morning, students. Today we continue with the discussion on the film Chemmeen. Hope you saw the film and got to know the narrative structure of Chemmeen. Today we'll do the film analysis. We'll look at the features of this narrative, look at the background history. So we'll start. So this is a case study of film Chemmeen, which came out in the year 1965. We'll start with some background on Chemmeen, the novel which came out in 1956. Chemmeen, written by Thagri Shivashankarapillai, is completely different from other works. Thagri belonged to the movement called Progressive Writers Movement, and all his works, other than Chemmeen, used to deal with progressive social realist style, social realism. That is, all those novels try to depict the real socio-political conditions of working class. If you analyze novels like Dandidangai, Thottiയുടെ മകൻ, they are all social realist works. But here we see Chemmeen is completely different because it is closer to the romanticism than the usual social realist narratives. And here in Chemmeen, we see that the focus is more on mental states of characters, the psychological trauma of these characters. And we here see all those individualistic narratives, and this novel is completely devoid of any sign of labor movement, which is usually seen in his other works. But it was Chemmeen which brought fame for Thagri outside Kerala, and as you know, it was one of the best sellers in Malayalam literature. It was translated into 30 languages, including industry. For example, uh, languages like French, German, Arabic, Japanese, etc. And there is this interesting dialogue by Kesari Balakrishna Pillai, who said, "നാൽപ്പത് കഴിഞ്ഞാലേ തകഴി പ്രേമകഥ എഴുതൂ." So that was a profound prediction of Thagri's literary trajectory by great critic Kesari Balakrishna Pillai in 1940s, and that proved to be true. And as you know, this novel was a bestseller, but there were a lot of criticisms against this novel. Many progressive critics, social realists, criticized it for its content not being progressive. So, what is the content of this novel? What is the major theme of this novel? The major theme of this novel revolves around a myth. Which myth? Myth about chastity. The whole novel revolves around this single myth. They said that this is a kind of a myth among the fisher communities along the coast of Kerala. Myth is like this: if the married fisherwoman was adulteress when her husband was in the sea goddess or Kadalamma would consume him. And many critics completely degraded this novel based on this theme. They said that through this novel, Thagari was trying to perpetuate this myth which was actually not there. Here, we should remember this person, Dr. Velukuttiarayan. So, he is an intellectual from fishermen community who vehemently criticized the representation of fishermen community in this novel. And he tried to say that such a superstition, such a myth never existed among their community. And the novel is completely devoid of any progressive elements. It is rather regressive. But there was this wholehearted appreciation from all non leftist critics, mainly based on its aesthetics and craft of this particular novel. Although the literary world didn't take criticisms of Dr. Velkuttiarayan seriously, now it acquires greater significance. There was a recent book titled Chemmeen Sangarshanagal written by K.N. Kunyahmed, which discusses this topic, and it discusses the major points raised by Dr. Velkuttiare. These are the major points. The myth of chastity of wife of fisherman as portrayed by Thagri didn't actually exist among the real Arya community. So that is not a reality among the fisherman community. And the representation of Arya community doesn't match with reality. The caste system, as shown in the narrative, doesn't exist at all, though this point is contestable. There are arguments against that too. And the figure of Kadalama, sea goddess, existed only in the folk tales and songs and is not a strong force among the actual community, though they don't believe in this concept of Kadalama, on this concept or figure of Kadalama. And the last one, that, as I said earlier, Thagari was using this narrative to justify, to strengthen, to perpetuate a superstition he himself built and enforced. He was trying to enforce it on Arya community. It was something which was created by himself. It is not there. The myth, like the myth about the chastity, is not there. So these were the reactions to Chemmeen, the novel. Now coming to Chemmeen, the movie, we have the magnificent production team ever. As you know, the director Ramu Karyat brought together the best team available, and the producer Babu Ismail Seth was the producer. There is this interesting story about how he became Kanmani Babu. His real name was Babu Ismail Seth, and he was a rich person, and actually, the film rights, this novel, when this novel became a bestseller, many people approached Thagari to get the film rights of this particular novel, and it was Kanmani Production Company, Kanmani Films, which got the rights. It is said that Ramu Karyat and Babu Ismail Seth wanted to make this film. They were so keen to make this film, they decided to buy the entire production company just to make this film. So they brought this Kanmani production company just to make this film. It is a very interesting story. And you must understand that when they decided to make this film, Babu Ismail Sheikh was a minor, and it is said that he waited to become to reach the age of 18 to sign a check. So they both waited to reach for this person to reach the at the age of 18 to produce the single movie. How interesting is that? And it is not like uh, there is this saying like fools rush in where angels fear to tread. It was not like that. They had this firm belief that they could make a magical film out of this novel. And they were completely right because this was the first movie which brought national recognition to Malayalam cinema. This is the first movie which got President's Gold Medal. So he brought Damu Karyat. So that is why, and they brought this production company. Babu Ismail Seth brought the production company, and later he was known by the name Kanmani Babu. And they brought all those talented people from all over India and even from outside. We have cinematographer Marcus Bertley, editor Rishikesh Mukherjee has an important role to make this film magical, magnificent, and music, of course, by Salil Chowdhury, lyrics by Vailar, and dialogue by S.L. Puram Sadanandan. And this is one among the costliest production. And we have our first color film, Kandam Vecha, and after that we have Chemmeen. So this is one of the earliest color cinema in Malayalam. And we have already done the narrative analysis of cinema. I read you the 7 parts in narrative of this movie from the article by C.S. Venkateswaran. So I'm quickly going through this. So in the first part, you have all those establishing shots and scenes introducing us to all important characters. In the first 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, you will get to know all the important characters. Please try to imagine the movie. And the first part ends in the song Kadal Ponore. And the second act deals with the money transactions with Parikutti for buying a boat, and Chakki reminds Kartama about chastity and ends in the song Manasamaine Varu, and which anticipates the climax of love of Kartama and Parikutti, the climax, the tragic climax, you should say. Third act, Chemmangunya buys boat and he becomes greedy. He ill-treats Parikutti. This act shows how greed overcomes Chemmangunya. He is completely a transformed person. Fourth act, you see the multifacets of sea, of famine, Chagara, and here we see the arrival of a new character, Palani, along with Chagara, and there is his marriage, tensions, and Kartama leaving home on insistence of Chakki. Fifth act, the couple start their new life. There are all these scandalous rumors spreading around, and the problems started brewing. Harikuti delivers news of death of Chakki to Kartama and ends with Palani's fight at the tea shop. Sixth act, we have Kartama continuing her life under the shade of doubt. Palani and Kartama lives an ostracized life. Everybody in that shore ostracize them. Chemmeen marries Kandan Gorin's widow, Papi, and here Kartama gives birth to a girl. And the final act, the seventh part, it is all those strings of tragedies. We have fall of Chemmeen completed. Panjami comes to Kartama's house and Palani overhears Kartama's talk on Parikuti, and he's actually shocked to know that she still loves him. And Kartama and Parikuti meets. There is his Palani meeting his death in a sea fury chasing a shark. And at the final shot, you see two dead bodies on the shore and a dead shark as well. So that is the final act. Now we move to the features of this narrative. So this is a story which is unfolded naturally with detailed sketch of main characters and incidents. So there is this natural flow in which all these characters and incidents are made or put to the audience in a detailed manner. And we can identify dramatic and emotional conflict points at different time of this movie. And along with that, another interesting fact is that the comedy scenes gel into the narrative form. So that is something which is very striking about this movie. In all those films which came out in 1990s till the we should say till the arrival of new generation cinema, the actors who play all those comedy scenes, all those friends who act as friends of the hero, they will be following a parallel line, which will be completely out of focus from the main plot. You don't usually see that kind of gelling into the narrative flow. So here in Chemmeen, we see that the comedy scenes given by Achan Gunjan, it actually goes into the narrative flow. It doesn't break the narrative flow at all. And songs act as powerful narrative devices. It also take the narrative forward. And the plot themes are never out of focus. The themes of the movie, of the film, is always focused upon till the end of the movie. And the screenplay, you should understand, it looks majestic and clinical. However, the final cinema achieved its perfection. It is said that it achieved its perfection on editing table, where it underwent a complete makeover. So there was this, it was because of this constructive partnership between director and editor Rishikesh Mukherjee. So it is said that Rishikesh Mukherjee got the final this film to this editing table, and he was not so happy with the film, and he edited out certain scenes. He brought some scenes to the forefront, and that is how this film got that majestic look. And it was an editing table that this film acquired a new meaning. Rishikesh Mukherjee, it is said that if you remember the first shots, all those shots are about it is focusing on the different phases of sea, if you remember. So here it was an editing table. The sea became an important character, and along with that, Chemmeen also got a prominent space in the film in editing table. Before that, it was just a love story, a tragic love story of Karuthama and Parikutti, and it was an editing table. It got new significance, newer meanings. We go into the details. So here we see the law of the sea is in conflict with that of land, the law of the land. So this is one of the major themes in Chennai. Till Chemmeen, there was only one other film which had this theme focused on sea-dependent community. It was titled Kadalamma, which came out in 1963. And in Chemmeen, we see that the loss of sea is completely in contrast with land. If you analyze, you see that the laws of sea completely resist capital accumulation. It is vast as the capital of the fisherman community lies in the vast sea. They need not accumulate that. And you should understand that was the tragedy of Chembengun. Actually, he started accumulating capital, accumulating wealth, and that brought tragedy to his life. So the laws of sea completely resist capital accumulation, and uncertainty rules the sea. It is boundless both in its extent and its wealth. And the logic of the sea is rather circular or cyclical, not linear as that of land. Like the tides, you can compare it to the tides, which comes high and leaves low. So, uncertainty, boundlessness, circular logic, completely resisting capital accumulation. So, these are the laws of sea. And the people who are dependent on the sea should follow the laws of the sea. Otherwise, their life will meet with such tragedy as in the case of Chembengun. And the chastity of the woman is essential. So that is also another law of the sea. You need to preserve your chastity. A woman should preserve her chastity to save her husband from the uncertainty of the sea. And the Chemmeen cinema, as well as a novel, shows this transgression from these laws, which is punished by Kadalamma herself. We see the tragedy of Chembengun, who dared to challenge these norms, and the tragedy of Kartama, so she completely disregarded the idea of chastity, and that brought tragedy to her life. So we end our discussion here. We have more to discuss. We need to discuss the characters in detail, which we'll do in the next class. So, this is how you do a film analysis. It is not like a film review where you write about the characters, about the plot, and you stop there. You give your own perspective. It is a film review. In film analysis, you will go into the depth of the movie, you dissect the movie, and you bring out the various perspectives, various ideas related to the movie. So here you see the film analysis of Chemmeen. As I said earlier, I am basically following the article written by C.S. Venkateswaran. I will give you the copy of that article so that you will get to know more. So thank you girls. Have a nice day.